Sports Illustrated just dropped a shocking trade proposal that's got Bengals fans talking. According to them, Cincinnati should trade away Cam Taylor-Britt. Yeah, you heard that right, Cam Taylor-Britt. Now hold on, that alone is enough to turn heads. Because when you say the Bengals might move on from one of their young corners, that's already a major headline. Realistically, though, let's be honest, at this point, the Bengals wouldn't get much value in return. Maybe a late-round pick if they're lucky. But before we dive deeper into this Bengals news, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and don't forget to hit the bell icon, so you never miss an update. Alright, back to it. Sports Illustrated actually believes Cincinnati should send Cam Taylor-Britt to the Seattle Seahawks in exchange for cornerback Tariq Woolen. Now here's where things get confusing. How exactly would this trade even work? According to that report, the idea is a corner-for-corner swap. But the logic behind it feels shaky at best. Seattle has reportedly been open to moving on from Tariq Woolen for a while now. They're frustrated. They feel like he hasn't lived up to the early hype, and there's been some tension inside that locker room. So yes, he's available, but would Seattle really want Cam Taylor-Britt in return? Let's be real, Britt hasn't looked like the same lockdown corner Bengals fans hoped he'd become. He's shown flashes of talent, no doubt, but the inconsistency has been hard to ignore. Meanwhile, Woolen's story isn't all that different. He's had standout moments, 11 interceptions across 4 seasons, yet he's also been beaten deep more than the Seahawks would like. So when you put it together, it's almost like trading one struggling corner for another. That's why this proposal doesn't quite add up for Cincinnati. It feels like swapping Cam Taylor-Britt for another version of Cam Taylor-Britt. Honestly, I just don't see the logic behind this trade. If you look at the numbers, and I'm not the biggest fan of PFF grades either, but they still tell part of the story. Tariq Woolen is sitting on a 41.1 coverage grade this season, with a solid 70.2 in run defense. Compare that to Cam Taylor-Britt. His coverage grade is 55.1 with a 51.2 against the run. Not exactly elite numbers on either side, but Britt's coverage edge is clear. So why would Seattle give up a corner who's had flashes of dominance for someone who's still trying to prove himself? It doesn't make sense from either team's point of view. And here's the interesting part. Both players came from the same 2022 draft class. The Bengals took Cam Taylor-Britt in the 2nd round, while Seattle grabbed Tariq Woolen in the 5th. The difference? Woolen exploded as a rookie with 6 interceptions, then added 2 more in year 2 and 3 more the following season. But now, suddenly he's fallen off. How do you go from being one of the NFL's most promising young corners to completely struggling within a few seasons? That's the mystery, and it's exactly why this trade rumor feels so unrealistic for Cincinnati. It's almost like both corners are living the same story. Cam Taylor-Britt had a quiet rookie season, showed flashes in the playoffs, then looked fantastic in his 2nd and 3rd years. And now, suddenly, he's struggling to find that same rhythm. And that's the tricky part for the Bengals. If another team actually wanted him, would Cincinnati even hesitate? Probably not, because right now, they're not getting much production from him anyway. From a Bengals perspective, swapping him for Tariq Woolen might feel like a fresh start. Why not? Type of move. But let's be honest, Seattle doesn't really gain anything here. They'd be trading for a corner who just got benched, while giving up a player who, at his best, has proven he can make plays. Both are in contract years too, meaning either team would be trading for long-term value. It would basically be a short-term rental swap, and that's not something Seattle typically does unless there's a draft pick involved. So unless Cincinnati throws in a late-round pick to sweeten the deal, this trade is more fantasy than reality. For now, it feels like one of those rumors that sound interesting, but wouldn't survive a single phone call between the two front offices. When you really think about it, there's just no clear reason why Seattle would make this trade. Cam Taylor-Britt's value has dropped to the point where most teams would rather take a late-round draft pick than risk a roster spot on him. Even if Seattle considered it, they'd likely ask for extra compensation, maybe a late pick, because at this stage, Britt simply isn't a difference maker. Now, yes, Mike Macdonald is one of the brightest defensive minds in football. The Seahawks' new head coach built his reputation with the Ravens, developing tough, disciplined secondaries. Maybe he could help Cam Taylor-Britt turn things around, but if he can't even get consistent play out of Tariq Woolen, what are the odds he can completely revive Britt's career? For the Bengals, though, it's simple. If you can get anything in return, you take it and move forward. No hard feelings, just business. Cincinnati's defense is evolving, and they can't afford to carry players who aren't keeping up. So Bengals fans, what do you think? Should the team actually consider moving on from Cam Taylor-Britt, or give him one more shot to prove himself in the stripes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you all in the next update.